Welcome to HFY Hero Fi, where the ordinary become extraordinary. Here we celebrate the fearless, the champions who rise against impossible odds. From tales of distant galaxies to the darkest corners of the supernatural, HFY Hero Fi brings you the ultimate stories of heroism. If you believe you've been chosen, heed the call and subscribe now. Let us Hero Fi you and come with us on our next adventure. The stars over Earth blinked like distant memories as the alien vessel broke through the upper atmosphere. The stolen Vexian ship, now under James Orion's command, moved with eerie silence through the vastness of space. Inside, hundreds of rescued prisoners slept uneasily, including many non-human allies who had joined the revolt back in the mines. James Orion stood on the bridge, a silent sentinel. The ship responded to his breath, his thoughts. He didn't speak commands, he whispered in its native language. Beside him stood Carlos Guerrero, a friend he made during his enslavement in the mines of Vexian. Carlos stared through the viewport at their home planet, his voice low and quiet. "I never thought I'd see home again." His gaze darkened. "And now we're possibly bringing disaster." James didn't respond immediately. The Holy Spirit whispered truths to him that went beyond language. He let out a deep sigh. "We will have to ensure that Earth is prepared for whatever's coming." As the ship crossed the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, Orion felt the familiar tingle of the vessel's consciousness reaching outward, scanning frequencies both electromagnetic and quantum. Because of his spiritual gift, Orion could feel the ship's senses become an extension of his own awareness. Ever since he was young, he could understand the languages of those around him, even the animals that he'd feed on the streets. This gift had proved invaluable for their escape from the mines of Vexian. Now, he would have to use it again to help humanity understand what was coming. "Get ready to send a transmission," he told the ship. "Ready," it whispered back to his mind. The transmission went out on a frequency that should have been impossible to access, a quantum-entangled channel that bypassed all conventional detection methods. In a command and research complex deep beneath the Mojave Desert, Orion's voice crackled on their communication system. "Echo Base, this is Captain James Orion. Do you copy? I repeat, Captain James Orion requesting immediate contact with Echo Division Command. We are returning from Vexian space with critical intelligence and refugees requiring sanctuary." Colonel Evelyn Mitchell's coffee mug shattered on the floor as she stared at the impossible transmission. The man speaking had been listed as missing and possibly dead for over 3 years. "Colonel," her aide stammered, "the signal is coming from somewhere beyond lunar orbit, but the quantum signature doesn't match any known Earth technology." The transmission continued. "Echo Base, if you're receiving this, transmit coordinates for secure landing. We are returning from alien space. Please respond." Colonel Mitchell came on the comms. "Identify yourself correctly, Captain Orion." Orion heard the stern voice and immediately recognized the voice of his close friend. This time, he said his name and verification code. The silence stretched for long moments before her voice crackled through the speakers. "James? James, is that really you? This is Colonel Evelyn Mitchell, Echo Division. We thought you were dead." "It's not that easy to get rid of me, Colonel," Orion said with a chuckle. "Many have tried," she said. She leaned back in her chair, a broad smile forming across her face. "Transmitting coordinates to your ship. Welcome home, Captain." Within hours, the secure facility buzzed with activity. Echo Division's military personnel worked alongside hastily assembled teams of xenobiologists, linguists, and military strategists under Evelyn's guidance. The Nevada desert had never seen anything like it. The ship descended through layers of atmosphere, its hull shifting between states of matter as it came to hover over the ground. Ancient Joshua trees bowed under waves of displaced air, and somewhere in the distance, coyotes howled at the alien presence that had invaded their territory. Standing tall on the landing platform was James Orion, flanked by his friend and now second in command, Carlos Guerrero. Around them was his command team, composed of various aliens that had been integral to their escape and survival until now. The other human and alien survivors worked around the ship, completing various tasks when needed. The desert wind carried the scent of dry earth and sage across his scarred features. It felt good to breathe the Earth's air again, even if it was just the dry desert air. He wondered how the others would feel. The desert wasn't exactly the best spot to land, but it was still better than the toxic gases of the mines. "Welcome to Earth," Orion said softly to their alien allies in each of their respective languages. His voice carried across the desert landing zone. Their alien friends each responded in their own language. "Are we sure Earth is going to welcome us back?" Carlos said under his breath. He didn't entirely understand his new alien friends, but they had each done a part in their escape from the Vexian mines. He was grateful for Orion and the aliens, but he never let his guard down completely. They continued to speak amongst themselves. Some of the aliens could communicate some words with each other, but only Orion truly understood them all. His holy gift was what brought them together in the mines, and hopefully, it would help convince the humans to accept them. Orion turned to his new friends and spoke to each of them in their own language. "Listen to me. Human beings tend to be very suspicious of others. We must approach them carefully. As soon as they see you, many will be afraid. As long as they're afraid, they'll be more hostile toward us." He turned to look at each of them. The iridescent wings of the Othmari caught the harsh sunlight, creating rainbow patterns that danced across the sand. The crystalline Natal moved with musical precision, their faceted bodies chiming softly with each step. A single serpentine Vashna slithered gracefully beside four-armed Drachnians, while the Alvirians' grass-like hair fell in tendrils down their backs. Deep down, human beings want to learn about other worlds, but they're afraid of the unknown. Please show them grace as they learn about you. Othar, one of 3 Othmari that had survived the battle on the slave ship, put a limb on Orion's shoulder. "We decided together that we would be here to help. We still mourn the loss of our planet. No one in this universe should experience that loss again." Drachna, princess of the Drachnians, laid a fist on her chest, and Orion did the same. "Whatever we can do to eliminate the Vexian scourge." She balled up her 4 fists, flanked by her 4 attendants. "We will not let them enslave anyone else." The Natal and Alvirians listened intently as Orion continued to speak and nodded in agreement. Only the solitary Vashna was silent as he listened. As the platform touched down just outside the perimeter fence of the covert base, Orion saw a tall woman standing with her mouth gaping wide. She approached the vessel carrying scientific equipment, her eyes wide with wonder. "These biosignatures are off the charts," she murmured, adjusting her scanners. "It's not just alive, it's actively thinking." She was so enthralled with the ship that she barely even acknowledged the presence of Orion. Orion walked off the platform to meet her. "Hello, I'm Captain James Orion." He outstretched his hand to take hers. "I was expecting to see Colonel Mitchell." The rest of his team hung back by the platform, unsure of their safety if they completely emerged from the ship. "Dr. Liza Bennett," she said with a large smile. "The rest of the base has mobilized. I just couldn't wait. Had to come see it for myself." When she turned toward Orion, she dropped the tablet where she had been writing her notes. Her eyes went wide as she finally noticed the aliens standing around Carlos on the ship's platform. She tried to speak, but the words were trapped inside. A moment later, a team of humans, military brass with them, arrived with all kinds of equipment and personnel. One of them had a beaming smile on his face as he approached Orion. "I thought you were dead. One day, you just disappeared." "Mark." The pair embraced tightly when they met. "I'm happy to see a familiar face." "I see you brought some friends," Mark said with a nod. Mark's posture was easy but alert, like someone used to being listened to. Beads of sweat ran down the polished, mahogany skin of his face, catching the light as he turned his head. "So did you," Orion said. His eyes noticed the rank on Mark's collar. "You? Commander now? I can't believe it. Miracles do happen." Mark gave Orion a small laugh. "A lot has happened since you disappeared 3 years ago. Come on. The higher-ups are waiting in the briefing room." 3 years, Orion whispered to himself. He hesitated before following Mark. "Will my friends be safe if we go with you?" Mark looked at Carlos and the aliens standing around him. "Yes. You have my word. You know Evelyn has dedicated her entire life to finding extraterrestrial life. She's not going to let them come to harm." Orion motioned for Carlos and the rest of the command team to follow him as he and Mark led the way into the base. Before he was too far, Orion assured the ship that they would be all right and to play nice with the human scientists. Gasps and hushed voices permeated the hallway as Orion and Mark walked through the base with Carlos and the aliens following close behind. They didn't get far before they were directed down a hallway with a single door at the end. "Where are they taking us?" Carlos whispered to Orion in Spanish. Mark's ears perked. "To one of our briefing rooms. You didn't expect me to parade you around our base and give intel to possible enemies." Mark's eyes landed on the ragtag group of aliens walking behind them. Carlos paused, eyebrows lifting in surprise. He hadn't expected Mark to speak Spanish. "We're not enemies," he said slowly, watching Mark's expression. "We wouldn't have been able to escape from the mines without them." His voice didn't rise, but there was weight behind every word, like he was reminding not just Mark, but himself of everything they'd risked, and who had stood beside them when it mattered most. "It's true," Orion confirmed. "We owe them our lives." Mark opened the two large, metal doors to the briefing room. Inside, a heavy silence settled over the group, dense and charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Thank you for the warm welcome, sir." Orion set a round, metal disc in the center of the table. Holographic displays showing Vexian ship schematics and devastating battle footage emerged from the disc. General Mathers took in the various images, but his expression was stoic. Director Sarah Chin watched, her calculating gaze fixed on Orion as he addressed the assembled leaders. Colonel Mitchell and Mark were seated next to him, one on each side. Orion didn't recognize any of the other officials in the room. "The Vexians aren't just another enemy," Orion explained, his voice heavy with the memory of what he'd endured. "They're brutal slavers. They've taken slaves from different systems, stripped them of their freedom, and forced them into the darkness of their minds, or to serve in their wars. The alien allies you see here today fought with me to escape from the mining planet of Vexor. They were crucial in the battle to remove the Vexians' stranglehold on the ship. And you led these Vexians here," General Mathers stated flatly. "They were already coming." Orion's connection with the ship provided him with streams of data, star charts, and tactical assessments. "They were the ones that abducted me, and who knows how many more." The ship's memory banks contain various records of abductions and worlds visited. "Earth has been marked for harvest since our first radio transmissions." A murmur ran through the assembled officers. Chen leaned forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "Captain Orion, you're asking us to trust an alien intelligence that could potentially be feeding us disinformation. How can we trust what you're saying to be true?" Colonel Mitchell placed her coffee mug on the table with a soft clink. "If Captain Orion and his team meant to do us harm, they wouldn't have asked for permission to land." She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "They would have attacked instead. Our people have been scanning the surrounding area. There are no threats to be found." Director Chin huffed. "Please. We all know you'd be on their side. You've been ranting about the existence of extraterrestrial life like a damn fanatic since you were a child." General Mathers frowned. "This council will not be reduced to childish pettiness. Get yourself together, Director, or we will continue this meeting without you." Director Chin straightened her suit and let out a deep sigh. "My apologies, sir." The images from the disc turned to burning worlds, species driven to extinction, the endless hunger of the Vexian fleet as it destroyed the planet Oth, Drak, and so many more. But there was also hope, records of successful resistance, worlds that had learned to transcend their limitations. "We are the only chance Earth has to fight the incoming threat," Orion said, his eyes reflecting the ship's ancient memories. "Even so, we're not asking for your trust. We're offering to earn it." Orion dimmed the lights in the room, and suddenly the walls themselves became display screens. Holographic star maps materialized in the air, showing the approach of the Vexian fleet with mathematical precision. Dates, trajectories, estimated arrival times, all presented with the clinical accuracy of a countdown to extinction. "We, as well as the ship we came in, are fully prepared to give you the information you need." 36 months. The ship's voice resonated through the disc, each word carefully modulated to avoid causing panic. "That is how long you have to prepare." General Mathers' face went pale, and more murmurs erupted among the officials sitting at the table. 3 years. The conventional weapons Earth won't stop the Vexians, and nukes are off the table. "But there are other possibilities," Orion said. Chen's eyes narrowed. "Such as?" "In exchange for protection, our alien allies, the ship and I, can help our scientists reverse engineer the ship. We're confident that we'd be able to help build hybrid weaponry and defense systems to protect Earth." Mark scoffed. "You're confident that we can do this in 3 years?" Chen leaned back in her chair, unimpressed. "We don't even know who these allies are." She said the word allies as if she was revolted by the mere thought of collaborating with them. "You haven't exactly given the man the chance to introduce them, Director," General Mathers said coldly. "You're right, sir. Let me introduce them to all of you." Orion stepped forward and introduced his alien companions as he spoke. "These are the allies who escaped Vexor with me, and each of them brings something Earth desperately needs." He gestured first to the towering, four-armed Drachnians. The Drachnians are unmatched in strength and combat endurance. Princess Drachna and her people can train Earth soldiers in frontline warfare and can manage the construction of fortresses to protect us against the Vexian assault, housing projects, and anything else we would need built. Their efficiency is unmatched. We can build defensive structures in strategic locations to protect our people. He stood next to a crystalline Natal, light refracting through its translucent frame. The Natal are master engineers and energy manipulators. With their help, we can adapt our technology to defend against energy-based weapons in space and create shields that hold. Next came the sleek, serpentine Vashna. The Shar is the last of his species, but he can teach us the ways of the Vashna. Espionage, infiltration, and psionic resistance. No one is better suited to prepare Earth's intelligence units than the Shar. A soft glow framed the moth-like Othmari. The Othmari bring sonic empathy, stealth, and unparalleled reconnaissance abilities. They can guide your scouts and negotiate where force would fail. They would make excellent ambassadors as you communicate with the rest of the world's leaders and as we make contact with other alien species. Is he serious? Orion heard a man whisper in German. Aliens? As ambassadors? Yes, I am serious, Orion responded in German. He took a deep breath and then once again addressed the room. We must get past judging others by their appearance. Finally, he stood next to the Alvirians. The Alvirians can heal our wounded and improve our knowledge in medicine. With their deep understanding of the natural world, they could guide us to restore damaged lands, boost our agriculture, and transform how we care for our environment. Orion turned off the disc and picked it up from the center of the table. These are my friends, and they stood with me against the Vexians. Now they stand ready to help Earth fight this incoming threat. More refugees are waiting on the ship for our instructions. While they don't have leadership or military experience, I'm sure they would be willing to be of service in our cause. You just expect us to take your word on this, Captain, Director Chin pressed. General Mathers interjected. Captain James Orion is a decorated officer. There's not an operation, he was a part of that failed. I trust his judgment, and I've heard good information about Carlos Guerrero from his government. He's been an indispensable asset to the Mexican military. He stroked his chin for a moment. 36 months, General Mathers repeated, his voice hoarse. Can we do it? We have to, Orion replied simply. Outside the briefing room, in the hangar where the ship rested, alien and human refugees began the slow process of making a new home. They had survived the destruction of their worlds, endured slavery in Vexian mines, and crossed the void of space seeking sanctuary. Now they waited to see if this blue-green world would accept them, or if fear would drive humanity toward its destruction. The countdown had begun, but so had humanity's greatest opportunity to transcend the limits that had defined it since it first gazed at the stars. 18 months later, the Nevada desert had been transformed. What was once barren sand now hummed with activity as construction crews, both human and alien, worked side by side. Massive crystalline structures rose from the earth, their surfaces pulsing with energy patterns that the Natal had taught human engineers to harness. Othmarian engineers traded their knowledge of advanced propulsion, while human shipyards adapted the technology to construct new hybrid warships and orbital fortresses. The sight would have been impossible to imagine, yet here it was, the future of Earth's defense taking shape under the relentless desert sun. The President, General Mathers, and the Othmarian ambassadors had worked tirelessly with world governments and the United Nations, forging fragile alliances out of old rivalries. Together, they laid the groundwork for humanity's survival, persuading nations to share intelligence and pool resources in the face of the coming Vexian onslaught. Diplomats brokered deals that would have seemed impossible just months before, alien allies training joint task forces, sharing technology, and building hardened outposts in places that once bristled with suspicion. For the first time in history, Earth's survival depended not on old flags, but on a united front strong enough to push back the threat coming from the stars. Back at the base, Dr. Liza Bennett wiped sweat from her brow as she emerged from the primary research facility, her tablet clutched against her chest. The past year and a half had been the most extraordinary of her career. She'd gone from studying theoretical xenobiology to working alongside living, breathing alien species who challenged everything she thought she knew about life in the universe. Colonel Mitchell sipped on her coffee as she observed the construction from a newly built observation deck. Continue with your status report, Dr. Bennett. Energy production is exceeding our projections by 30%, she reported. The Natalian human hybrid shields are responding better than we hoped. Evelyn Mitchell nodded, her weathered face showing the strain of the past year and a half. The responsibility of preparing Earth for war had aged her, but there was something else in her eyes now: wonder. And combat training? Orion came in and handed Evelyn a mug of coffee. She gave him a broad smile and thanked him. Mark's team has made progress with the Drachnian combat training protocols. Princess Drachna has been intense, but effective in training our ground forces. Liza glanced toward the combat training area where human soldiers were sparring with four-armed Drachnian warriors. Our soldiers are getting stronger, faster, and more resilient under alien tutelage. And communications? Evelyn asked. Now that I'm back from our meeting with the United Nations, our classes are going well, Orion said with a twinkle in his eye. Many of our alien friends have picked up English fairly quickly, and our soldiers are each specializing in different alien languages. The communications officers I've assigned to each group are progressing well. With such a good teacher, it makes sense that they would be doing so well, Evelyn said as she nudged him. I've enjoyed learning to speak to the Alvirians. They're quite fascinating. Their work with our medical officers has already helped so many people. You've been like a kid in a candy shop this whole time, but... He paused and looked deeply into her eyes. Make sure to take time to rest. Maybe I could take you out for a drink. We haven't had a chance to connect since we've been so busy. Evelyn glanced up at him, just for a heartbeat, and a small, hopeful smile ran across her lips. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I appreciate the offer, James, but there's too much for us to do right now. Even though she had turned him down again, she didn't move to leave. She stood there, close enough to feel the warmth between them. Orion gave her a knowing look. All right, I'll get back to work then. Evelyn watched Orion leave, and her heart sank. Dr. Bennett shook her head. Why do you keep turning him down? I'm perfectly capable of holding down the fort for you to go have a little fun. Evelyn rolled her eyes. Don't look at me like that. We all know you like him. You're the one who doesn't want to admit it. Who's we? Evelyn asked. Liza gave her a smirk and didn't answer. Through the viewing screen, they could see Orion working alongside the ship, his hands pressed against its biometallic surface. The connection between man and vessel had grown stronger, allowing them to unlock secrets of Vexian technology that conventional analysis couldn't penetrate. He's changed, Evelyn observed. He's always been gifted with languages, learning even the most difficult with ease. But how did he learn these alien languages so quickly? It's mind-boggling. Well, we're all a little different now. I mean, aliens are living among us now. Liza's voice was quiet. 18 months ago, I was astonished by them, not even really sure what to expect from them. Now, she watched as Othar, one of the Othmari, delicately adjusted a sensor array with movements that looked like a dance. Now I can't imagine facing what's coming without them. Later that day, Orion approached from the communications center with Carlos, his expression troubled. Over time, he and Carlos had worked together to become Earth's primary liaisons with the various alien species. Orion's natural leadership ability helped to bridge cultural gaps that could have proven disastrous. General Mathers was their greatest supporter as Orion and Carlos traveled to other nations. We've got a problem, Orion announced. The deep space monitors are picking up unusual energy signatures from the ship's lower levels, something the preliminary scans missed. Evelyn's hand instinctively moved to her sidearm. Define unusual. Vexian, Carlos said simply. The word hit like a physical blow. They'd spent all this time assuming the ship was clean, that all the Vexian crew had been eliminated during the escape. The possibility that an enemy had been hiding among them all this time sent a chill through the small group. Alert status yellow, Evelyn commanded into her comm unit. All senior staff to the ship now. The ship's lower levels were a maze of biomechanical corridors that pulsed with alien life. Orion led the security team deeper into the vessel's inner corridors, his enhanced connection allowing him to sense the ship's discomfort, its guilt for not noticing the alien traitor within. Here, he whispered, pressing his palm against a section of wall that seemed identical to all the others. The surface rippled like water, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. The Vexian inside was smaller than expected, its chitinous exoskeleton dulled by months of hiding. It cowered in the corner of the cramped space, multiple arms raised in what might have been surrender or preparation for attack. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding stone. I am Zektar. I mean no harm. The assembled team, Orion, Carlos, Mark, Princess Drachna, and 2 human security officers, tensed for battle. But something in the creature's posture suggested defeat rather than defiance. You are Vexian, Drachna growled, her forearms flexing as she prepared to strike. Your kind destroyed my world. She slipped from English into her native language, cursing his very existence. Not my kind, Zektar replied, switching to heavily accented English. I am exile, traitor to them, as you would say. Orion stepped forward, his gift allowing him to sense the complex emotions radiating from the creature. Fear, yes, but also something resembling hope. Why should we believe you? Orion asked, Zektar's multiple eyes fixed on Orion with desperate intensity. Because I have been feeding your ship information. The tactical data you have received, the fleet movements, the technology adaptations, they came from me. The admission sent shockwaves through the group. Carlos raised his weapon, but Orion held up a hand. Explain, Orion commanded. I was a communications officer on this vessel. When the rebellion began, I saw what my people had become, destroyers, not builders. Slavers, not liberators. Zektar's voice cracked with emotion. I chose to help from the shadows. Your ship has been receiving encrypted data from Vexian command networks. I have been, how do you say, a spy for you? Mark's eyes narrowed. And we're supposed to trust a Vexian spy. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Why were you just hiding here? That doesn't exactly make us want to trust you. Not trust, Zektar said, reaching slowly into a pouch in its exoskeleton. Verify. It produced a device that pulsed with familiar patterns. Fleet deployment schedules. Command codes. Weakness in their ship's shielding systems. I offer them all to you. Princess Drachna's rage was palpable, but even she seemed to recognize the potential value of such intelligence. If this is deception, then you lose nothing by testing it, Zektar interrupted. But if true, you gain an advantage that could save this world. Orion looked at Carlos. We'll need to verify everything, but if even half of what the Vexian claims is true, it could change everything. Carlos nodded grimly. You'll be confined under heavy guard, Orion decided. If your information proves accurate and helps us defend Earth, we'll discuss terms. If it's a trap, he let the threat hang in the air. Understood, Zektar replied. I have waited 18 months to reveal myself. I can wait longer to prove my worth. As they escorted the Vexian to a secure holding area, none of them noticed the serpentine figure watching from the shadows. The Shar's forked tongue tasted the air, sampling the emotional residue of the encounter. The Vashna's black eyes reflected no light as he slithered away through the ship's ventilation systems, his mission clear. The communication was brief and encoded in frequencies that only Vashna biology could detect. Hidden in his assigned quarters, the Shar pressed specialized organs against a biotransmitter he'd grown from his own tissue over months of careful cultivation. Scout Command, this is deep cover asset the Shar, he whispered in the ancient Vashna language. The humans progress faster than anticipated. They have Vexian defector providing intelligence. Advise. The response came hours later, carried on quantum fluctuations that bypassed every detection system Earth possessed. Acknowledged. I will maintain cover until your arrival. The Shard destroyed the transmitter, letting the organic components dissolve back into his bloodstream. For over a year, he'd played the role of grateful refugee, sharing just enough Vashna knowledge to seem helpful while carefully sabotaging key systems when opportunities arose. The humans and their alien allies trusted him completely. They had no idea that the Vashna had been Vexian allies for centuries, trading information and resources in exchange for territorial concessions. The Shar's entire species had been evacuated before their world was destroyed, a carefully orchestrated deception that allowed them to infiltrate refugee populations across the galaxy. But as he prepared to resume his normal routine, the Shar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: guilt. The humans had shown him kindness. Dr. Bennett had worked tirelessly to understand Vashna physiology to help him adapt to Earth's environment. Carlos had personally ensured his dietary needs were met. Even the stern director Chun had eventually warmed to his presence. The serpentine alien's conscience warred with generations of conditioning and loyalty. He thought of the innocent questions Othar asked about Earth culture, of Princess Drachna's fierce protectiveness toward all the refugees, of Orion's unwavering belief that different species could work together. For a moment, the Shar considered abandoning his mission. But the weight of loyalty to his people and fear of Vexian retribution proved stronger than his newfound attachments. The transmission had been sent. The die was cast. As he left his quarters, he came across Aya. "Pardon me," she said softly. Her grass-like hair fell around her shoulders. "I have been sent. You have been summoned to the research facility." Usually, others looked upon him with fear, but her eyes were always kind. 3 days later, long-range sensors detected the approaching scout ships. Multiple contacts bearing 27 Mark IV, the communications officer announced, her voice tight with tension. Configuration matches Vexian scout vessels from Zektar's intelligence files. The command center erupted into controlled chaos as Earth's defenders mobilized for their first real test. On the main display, 3 sleek vessels approached the outer solar system, their biomechanical hulls bristling with weapons that could reduce mountains to vapor. "They're supposed to be reconnaissance only," Mark observed, studying the tactical display. "Why are they coming in so aggressively?" Zektar, now serving as a technical advisor under heavy guard, manipulated the holographic interface with surprising gentleness. "These are not standard scouts," he said, his multiple eyes analyzing the ship's signatures. "Something is wrong. These ships have been modified." Orion scratched the stubble on his chin. "If they've been modified with weapons, then these are not just here to scout. They come for blood, not intelligence. Why come ahead of the full invasion force to fight with just 3 ships?" Evelyn pondered. "Unless they're not here for Earth specifically." Her eyes locked on Orion. "They're here for you." She gently touched his arm. "You and the rebels killed many Vexian warriors back on the mines and on the ship. Could it be that these scouts lost family in that rebellion of yours, James?" Director Chun, who had gradually moved from skepticism to grudging acceptance of their alien allies, leaned forward in her chair. "They're not the only ones who lost family. Thanks to James, I finally know what happened to my aunt who went missing all those years ago." Chin cleared her throat. "These ruthless aliens abducted her to work in their mines. Not just her, but so many others. What about their families? I have no sympathy for them. I don't care what they're here for. All I need to know is if our defenses can handle them." "Ground-based shields will protect the base," Nien reported. "My people and I have worked diligently with your scientists to make sure they are fully operational in the designated areas." His crystalline body rose from his seat. "However, not all populated areas have completed construction. I would advise this battle to be fought in space." Orion was already moving toward the hangar where their ships awaited. Over the past year and a half, the main vessel, their flagship, had been used to modify the current fleet with hybrid human-alien technology, turning it into something unprecedented. Until now, their ships had only been used in field tests. Orion pondered whether he should take up the main ship or one of the modified versions. "I'm taking the main ship up," he announced. "Carlos, coordinate ground defenses. If any of their ships get past us—" "They won't," Carlos interrupted, his voice carrying absolute certainty. "We've trained for this." As Orion's team prepared for launch, the Shar approached under the guise of offering intelligence support. "Captain," he called out, his serpentine form moving with deceptive grace, "I should accompany you. Vashna psionic abilities could prove valuable in space combat." Something in the alien's tone made Orion pause. His gift for languages extended beyond words to emotional undertones, and he sensed something wrong in his spirit, a dissonance between the serpent's words and his underlying feelings. "Stay with ground forces," Orion decided. "Your skills will be more valuable here." The Vashna's black eyes flashed with something that might have been disappointment or relief. "As you wish, Captain." Before Orion and his team could make it to the ship, the Vexian fleet opened fire from high orbit. Streaks of emerald energy carved through the black sky and slammed into the shields over Nevada. For a few tense minutes, the defensive barriers held, flickering domes of blue light that pulsed with every impact. But the onslaught was relentless. Overloaded shield generators failed in brutal sequence, each one flaring out in a burst of plasma and debris, leaving gaping holes in the city's last defense. Sections of the desert city ignited into fire as entire blocks crumbled under the barrage. The air filled with the thunder of collapsing towers and the distant, rising wails of the wounded civilians. Every second counted. Somewhere beyond the flames, Orion's crew raced to launch before the Vexians could hurt more people. The main ship rose from the desert, its hull shifting between states of matter as it accelerated toward the approaching threat. Mark sat in the co-pilot's seat, his hands steady on controls that responded well to his touch. Behind them, Othar and Nien monitored the weapon systems during the attack. "The shields have held over the base, but several areas in Nevada have been attacked," Nien said. "We need to move faster." "She's already at full speed," Orion grunted. Alien and human soldiers scrambled through the corridors, each with their own responsibility, desperately trying to get ready for what was to come. "Contact in 60 seconds," Othar reported, his moth-like wings trembling with anticipation. The first Vexian scout ship opened fire, its energy beams ripping through the void with surgical, lethal force. Orion gritted his teeth as the ship shuddered under the barrage. He could almost feel its agony as the shields flared, holding the onslaught at bay. "Return fire," he snapped, voice cutting through the chaos. The ship obeyed like a living weapon. Blinding lances of crystallized energy tore through the dark, slamming into the enemy's weak spots. Soft seams in the hull that Zektar's intel would cause a chain reaction leading to the ship's destruction. The skirmish was brutal and over in seconds. 2 Vexian scouts vanished in eruptions of fire and twisted wreckage, torn apart by Earth's alien-honed weapons and the merciless aim of its defenders. But the third ship, scorched and trailing sheets of flame, punched through the shattered perimeter like a wounded beast, refusing to die as it hurtled straight for the planet below. Orion's breath caught as it plunged toward the planet below, trailing fire like a falling star. They continued blasting as it plunged, but there were still life signs aboard. "Now it's up to Carlos and the ground team," Mark said. Orion hit the scanners. "Command, searching space for survivors, and then we'll return to base." He said a silent prayer for his brother, Carlos, and the soldiers down on the ground before moving the ship forward. The Vexian ship crashed in the desert 20 kilometers from the base, its emergency systems keeping the crew alive long enough to deploy ground forces. From its damaged hull emerged warriors, their insectoid bodies sheathed in layered, chitinous armor that glinted in the moonlight. Their weapons, according to Zektar, were capable of cutting through tank armor like paper. Carlos stood in the bunker, coordinating the defense with military precision learned through years of experience and months of alien training. Around him, screens showed the deployment of Echo Base's military force. Human soldiers fighting alongside Drachnian warriors, the Natal engineers maintaining shield generators under fire, Othmari scouts providing real-time intelligence, and Alvirians on standby with human medics. "They're trying to reach the research facility," reported a human lieutenant. "Probably going after the technology archives." "Not on my watch," Carlos said firmly. Beside her, human soldiers surged forward, boots crunching over scorched glass and sand turned razor-sharp by the heat. Princess Drachna carved a path through the chaos, her 4 arms a storm of whirring blades and crackling plasma fire. Fueled by the grief of her planet being destroyed, she impaled a Vexian soldier through the throat, tore the blade free with a sickening twist, and pivoted to slam an elbow into another's eye socket, splintering bone and chitin in a spray of black ichor. She and her attendants fought like frenzied beasts at her back, axes biting deep into armored spines, claws raking open soft underplates. Shouts and screams mixed with the hiss of energy weapons as human rifles stitched glowing lines across the battlefield. Together, the Drachnian charge and the human squad slammed into the Vexian line like a hammer into brittle glass, breaking it, grinding it underfoot, and leaving the desert littered with smoking corpses. But it was Director Chun who faced the most personal test of the evening. She had been coordinating civilian evacuations when the Shar appeared at her side, his movements more aggressive than she'd ever seen before. "Director," he hissed, "you must come with me. There is a safe passage to the emergency bunkers." Something in his voice triggered her survival instincts, perhaps the same intuition that had made her successful in intelligence work. "I think I'll stay here," she replied carefully. His facade dropped like a discarded mask. His serpentine body coiled with predatory grace as bio-weapons emerged from hidden pouches in his scales. "You will come, or you will die. The Vexians require hostages." The attack came with lightning speed, but Chun was already moving, her training from decades in military intelligence saving her life as the Shar energy blade carved through the air where she'd been standing. "Traitor," she gasped, reaching for her sidearm. "Survivor," the Shar corrected, striking again with movements too fast for human reflexes to counter. She rolled to her feet, teeth clenched, sidearm drawn, but the Vashna was already on her. His coils lashed out, wrapping her arm in a crushing grip. There was a sickening pop as bone gave way. Pain flashed white behind her eyes, but Chin still pulled the trigger twice, shots sparking uselessly off his armored scales. Chin would have died then, but Aya emerged from the underbrush like a spirit of the forest. Vines uncoiled around her arms, alive and whispering, as she raised a hand toward the Shar. The Vashna's scaled coils tensed, his forked tongue flickering as he launched a psionic strike, but Aya's black eyes didn't even blink. Roots erupted from the ground, snaring his tail, thorns piercing scaled flesh. The air pulsed with an eerie hum as Aya's empathic presence rippled out. Not a barrier of sound, but a wave of calm that scraped at his rage and scrambled his killing intent. His coils thrashed, trying to crush her, but creeping vines wove around his jaws, forcing them shut with an audible crack. The clash was brief but brutal, instinct and venom against harmony and living earth. When it ended, his serpentine form lay motionless among the broken roots, his scales split and leaking dark ichor onto the white-tiled floor. Aya stood over him, breathing hard, her grass-like hair shimmering, as if whispering a morning song for the life she'd just ended. "Why did you save me?" Chun gasped, staring at the alien who had saved her life. "Because," Aya whispered in her melodic voice, "some bonds transcend species. You gave us a home when we had nothing. How could we do less than protect it?" The revelation of his betrayal sent shockwaves through the base, but it also galvanized Earth's defenders. By dawn, the last of the Vexian ground forces had been eliminated, their ship's wreckage already being studied by teams of human and alien scientists. In the days following the battle, the true scope of the Shar's betrayal became clear. Analysis of his quarters revealed sophisticated communication equipment and evidence of sabotage attempts that had been carefully concealed over months of collaboration. He was feeding them information the entire time, Dr. Bennett reported to the assembled leadership. Ship configurations, defensive capabilities, personnel deployments, they know everything about our preparations. The revelation was devastating, but it also proved the worth of their other alien allies. Aya's willingness to risk her life to save Director Chun had swayed even the most skeptical humans. Princess Drachna's leadership in battle had earned the respect of every soldier who fought alongside her. The Natal's engineering expertise had kept their shields operational under direct assault. "We're not just fighting for Earth anymore," Orion realized as he stood before the mixed assembly of humans and aliens. "We're fighting for the idea that different species can choose to work together instead of destroying each other." Director Chun, her arm in a sling from her encounter with the Shar, stood to address the gathering. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, her voice carried no skepticism, no hidden agenda. "I owe my life to Aya," she began, her words carrying across the silent room. "More than that, I owe her an apology. For 18 months, I looked at our alien allies as potential threats instead of seeing them as what they truly are, refugees who chose to stand with us against a common enemy." She turned to face each of the alien representatives in turn. "The Vashna betrayed us, yes. But the Othmari saved us. The Drachnians bled with us. The Natal built our defenses. And a Vexian defector gave us intelligence that may yet save our world." Her gaze settled on Zektar, who had proven his worth by providing tactical information that had been crucial in the battle. "We can choose to judge entire species by the actions of individuals, or we can choose to judge individuals by their own actions. I know which choice I'm making." The applause that followed was more than polite acknowledgement. It was acceptance, finally and completely given. They were at the halfway point now. 18 months remained before the main Vexian fleet's arrival, and Earth's defenders used every moment. The victory against the Scouts had provided valuable combat experience and boosted morale, but everyone understood it was only a preview of what was coming. In the depths of the research facility, Dr. Bennett worked alongside Nien to decode the final secrets of Vexian biotechnology. Above ground, construction continued on the orbital defense platforms that would serve as Earth's first line of defense. Human engineers worked alongside Drachnian construction teams to fortify ground bases. Othmari scouts prepared communication networks that would coordinate the defense across the globe. And in a secure wing of the facility, Zektar worked with human cryptographers to decode the deepest secrets of Vexian command protocols. The former enemy had become one of Earth's most valuable assets, his insider knowledge complementing the tactical genius of leaders like Carlos and the spiritual insight that guided Orion. "The main fleet is larger than we initially calculated," Zektar reported during one of the daily briefings. "But they expect to face primitive resistance. They have no conception of what you have become." Colonel Mitchell smiled grimly as she reviewed the deployment schedules. 18 months ago, she had dreamed of making contact with alien life. Now she was preparing to go to war alongside beings from different worlds, united by a common cause. "They're going to get the surprise of their lives," she said. In the hangar, the ship that had carried them home from the stars pulsed with life. When Orion placed his hands on its outer hull, he could feel its eagerness for the coming battle. It too had a bone to pick with the Vexians. "We're ready," he whispered to the ship. The ship's response resonated through his bones. We are more than ready. We are united. The Vexians were coming, but they would not find the primitive world they expected. 18 months ago, Earth was counting down to its destruction. Now, it was counting down to the moment when the galaxy would learn that humans are not to be trifled with. This blue-green planet would not be an easy target for the Vexians or for anyone else who came after them. Colonel Mitchell walked into the hangar toward Orion, holding a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. "I think I'm ready for that drink now," she said with a smile.